one of the things that you've got to watch at. Just where are your bees sitting? The land. If it's wet, are they going to sink down and tip over? Is it going to get muddy in the spring? How are the weeds? Can I get in there and clean out? Just the physical space of where your bees are going to be. Common sense before you get them there. It's a lot harder to do it right, or it's a lot harder to move them and fix it than it is to do it right the first time when you're putting them there. Certainly you can put bees on your deck, on your back porch, on a fire escape. Any of these places work if you remember flight paths. A good friend has bees on a fire escape. Works really well when he's inside. They go right past, he has to open a window to get outside, they go right past that window, and that's great. He can watch them. He can sit and eat breakfast and watch his bees in the morning. But when he opens up that window, it rattles the fire escape a little bit, and then the bees are all going, hey, something's going on. He gets outside, ding, 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 and he announces his arrival long before he gets there. So when you're placing your bees on your deck, you can aim your bees, right there. These guys are aiming your bees. And if you've got them on your deck, you don't want to aim them at your neighbor, and you don't want to aim them at your double door going into the living room. You want to aim them out over the yard, or away from you and away from foot traffic. How do you aim them? Front door. My front door is that way. They're mostly going to go out that way and then probably up, as opposed to putting the front door here and having them come right at me. The question is, does the sun have nothing to do with it? It's going to help, but mostly the opening. It's just basically when they leave. Where are they going to go? And if they're going to leave and come right at you, turn them 180 and you'll probably fix that. And again, you don't want to be aiming them at your neighbors. Some people, there's a good friend in Maryland who has bees in his garage. And the door is you've got an opening and the bees come and go from the outside of the garage, but the beehive is inside. There is out of sight, out of mind. And the opening is up about 8 feet above line. Most people don't look up. If you put your bees on your garage roof, I bet you nobody will ever see them unless you point them out. People don't look up. This guy's got the opening about 8 feet in his garage. He's got a big platform on the side wall, and he gets up there and walks. Never a problem. When he opens them up to examine them inside, he has a window up above the bees that he opens. It's dark inside. The bees that come up go out the window, come in the front door. So, there's a lot of ways you can have bees without people knowing you have bees, even if it's legal. One of the things that this guy doesn't have a problem with, because his bees are sitting right on the ground, that I have to consider, and you may have to consider, is the hive stand. Now, I've got my bees up off the ground about 18-20 inches because of skunks. I have to have them up that high. The other thing is I want them up that high, so I don't want, I'm getting to be an old man and bending over and lifting a heavy box all afternoon gets to be more trouble than it's worth. So I don't want to have to lift them so high. So if my bees are up off the ground, when I take a box off the top, I can put it on the stand right next to it. It's not all the way down to the ground. That's one advantage of being up. But another advantage, and skunks is the other advantage, well, one of the things you want to think about, if you have a good year, if that hive has a good year, come September, it's going to weigh 300 plus pounds. If you've got two colonies on a hive stand made out of 2x4s, with the 2x4s and nothing on the bottom, 600 pounds come September, guess what's going to happen? That hive stand is just going to kind of settle right down into the ground. You're going to push it right down into the ground. Well, or unless you're a carpenter like I am and it just collapses on you. All right, I had that happen once. I learned a tipped over hive is not a happy hive. 2 tipped over hives are a bad afternoon. Getting them sorted out and put back together and getting the bees. And if it happens when you're not home and they're out there for a couple of days and it rains, things can get ugly. So when you're putting your bees on your hive stands, now one of the things that I do is I make a hive stand big enough for 3 hives, and I only put 2 on it. So I've got a space in between in the middle. So when I'm taking this hive apart, I can put equipment down in the middle, When I'm taking this hive apart, I can put equipment down in the middle, and I don't have to reach all the way to the ground to pick up this stuff. It's better on my back, better on my legs, and I think you'll be better for it after a long afternoon. You also have to, if you take a look at how those hives are situated down there, the beekeeper can work on both sides and the back, because you will end up working on both sides and the back. You will need to get at this side or from the back. So when you're putting up your screens and fences, and I'm going to get to those in a second, but when you're putting up screens and fences, remember that you need about 3 feet around each side of that hive so that you can get at it. If you're scrunched up here and you're looking for a place to put equipment, very soon you're going to find out that this isn't working well. So this guy's got the wall and back, and he's got all of these trees and behind the wall. But if you have none of this naturally, if you've got a flat backyard and you have to put some kind of screen up, you can put a temporary fence up. You can get these things at the hardware stores. You can grow a screen or a fence, either annuals every year, put in perennials, put in some kind of evergreen. But when you're screening it, out of sight, out of mind, remember that people are walking past your place from the street, so they can see it there, from the neighbor's yard, so they can see it from that direction. Certainly using a building as a screen is a good idea, your garage or one side of your house perhaps. But get something up there so that you're getting at least some of your colony sometimes out of sight, out of mind. A colony that is white, that's what you see most of the time. These aren't white, which is good to see. They show up at night, and think of 4 13-year-old boys in a beehive at night. All right, I dare ya. If it's dark green, or if it's green, or if it's brown, or like this one, natural color, they don't show up. People don't see them, and that dare ya never enters in. The other half of that equation, of course, is where is the sun today? Now these guys are in the sun. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Where is the sun come December? And that's one of the things you want to look at. If you situate your fence next to your building, wherever it is, so that the summer sun works well, is your colony going to be in the shade all day, all winter long? And that you're going to have to figure out where sun goes come December, but you don't want your colony in the shade all winter long. You want it to be able to get some sun, because you want that colony to be able to warm up just a little bit so bees inside can move around a little bit and get from where they are to where there's more food. Shade all day long, much less likely to happen. One of the things you also want to think about is where on your property. If you got them on a roof or your balcony or on your deck, probably not an issue. But if you got them in the backyard, where on your property is they going to be? If bees are legal in your town, there probably are some restrictions on how close to property lines they can be, and you need to be aware of those. If you've got bee police, they'll come and say 20 feet. You're only 6, and you're going to have to move them or get them out of here. So know how far you're going to have to be, and then have them that far. And some municipalities are very, very clever. They say they have to be at least 50 feet from a property line, and most lots are 80 feet wide. Tough to do. I can get them 50 feet this way, but I can't get them 50 feet this way. So they have essentially regulated beekeeping out of business by just having a location regulation in place. Sometimes you can, there's just no way you can have bees in your backyard or on your roof or on your deck or wherever. It just isn't going to happen. You've got the neighbor from hell, or you've got a neighbor who truly is allergic, or someone in your family is allergic, and having bees that close to home isn't going to work, and you're going to have them in somebody else's place, somebody else's backyard or a farmer's field or something. Just briefly, some things to think about if you have to. We as beekeepers too often put bees where we can rather than where we should. And if you have that option, if you have to get bees out of your yard, or you can't put them in your yard, take a year to find a spot. And it takes a year because you need to know where things are growing. Is there forage available? Is this field